Legalised lynching, that's how campaigners described the US execution of Troy Davis this week. But half of British people want to execute murderers. Should we bring back the death penalty, even if we risk killing the wrong man? Good morning, welcome to Sunday Morning Live. Many, well, my guests this morning are famous for fighting their corners. Best-selling crime novels. We'd like to know what you think this morning. Call in. It's a fact of British life. Most British people support the death penalty. But the politicians won't vote for it or even debate it. More than 20,000 people have signed a petition to try and make them. So this week, we've taken it out of their hands, and it's your turn. Do you think we should bring back capital punishment? And will you vote for or against it? Well, John, you've spent time in the question for our text vote this morning. Should Britain bring back the death penalty if you think we should? Text the word vote followed by yes. If you disagree, text vote followed by no. Our text number is 81771. And text will be charged at your standard message rate. For full terms and conditions, visit bbc.co.uk/Sunday Morning Live. And we'll show you how you voted at the end of the programme. Val, polls usually show that there is a majority in favour of the death penalty. It is popular will, isn't it?
I think it's a knee-jerk response.
I don't believe that.
But I mean, how does that help victims? In what?
One is the deterrent, which I want to discuss further in a moment. But you say, how would it help victims by this? Let's talk to Paul Bowman. Paul, your daughter, Sally Ann, was murdered. Would the death penalty in that case, for you, have been the right form of justice?
Well, in my personal questions there, at least at that point, any defence that comes up, there's no rehabilitation as such. You know, people like Mark Dixie are career criminals. He built...
John, you know, it's a powerful argument from somebody who has suffered. It's very hard to argue
Indeed,
this.
and
To somebody else who's also been affected and has a view on this, Colin Parry. Colin, of course, your son was killed in an IRA bombing. You are a magistrate, so you have a legal view. He's a research fellow at Oxford University, an expert on American history, to unpick this for us. Does it make, as I understand it, in America, 130 people have been released from death row because innocence has been proved in cases where they might have faced the death penalty. We've heard the statistics on deterrence, but what about...
The researcher we just heard of said because A came before B, A caused B, and we all know that's not how science works.
An anecdote here, every single day. It's not something they've just...
From Brazil, although I'm not sure if that's where you're calling in from, Jel. No, you're in London. The image isn't terribly clear, but I'm sure we can hear your voice. Jel, you want to see the death penalty reinstated here, is that right? Why?
I would be if people were red-handed, like the guy who stabbed someone, they're not talking about.
And just started to break up there, although we heard in the first part of your point very clearly. Thanks very much indeed. Mine the same moral sort of ground rights abuses abroad.
No, I don't think it does.
Vote, and we're going to allow you. John, how do you deal with the fact, and it is a persistent issue, the fact that for some people and some children the word gay is just a light-hearted form of insulting perhaps a friend, and for some that use of the word can actually be done.
That's just not true. The fact is, schools are an incredibly intimidating place.
They used a word in their youth which they didn't really understand the meaning of.
Well, perhaps, Val, is that the issue about how far up this gets reported? That with the child, you don't report it to the local authority.
I think so.
Think about another issue now, because we're going to talk about WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange, who, side note, the lottery winner I did. It was a marvellous life. I might not have any money now. I don't want any. Good for you, Viv. Right, coming up on Sunday Morning Live, they cheat on their wives, sleep with prostitutes, have fist fights outside bars and crash their expensive cars. Some of our sporting heroes aren't exactly good role models. Should their prowess on the pitch allow them to behave badly, though, when they're off it? You can join in by webcam, or you can make your views known by phone, email or online. Remember, keep... Well, if you have a webcam, you can make your point on Skype this morning. You can join the conversation on Twitter, phone, text or email. The details are all on the screen. We're joined by George Galloway. Should we recognise a Palestinian state?
Most people seem to think so. The number of people in the rejectionist camp is...
So you just a lone voice against a sea of voices? Hello, I'm going to come to you in a moment. But George, can I just ask you the question? Do we recognise a state I don't
well
want to,
done, you.
Okay,
well done.
I don't want to argue just in this room because there are people we can talk.
Of the negotiation, the settlers are controlling 42% of the West Bank.
Country there will be zero Jews. What can you tell by racism? And this is from the educational system.
I want to talk to Professor Chaim Brashith, who is an Israeli pro-Palestinian activist and filmmaker. We've heard there very directly the anger on both sides and the resistance on both sides in this argument. If a Palestinian state was recognised, David and Milo, I want to ask about the fact that we saw in our report earlier the celebration of the Arab Spring and the rise of democracy. To talk about this as being the end of peace negotiations when Mahmoud Abbas has not indicated that that's what he's trying to achieve.
Well, it's not up to him. Peace negotiations are a two-way process, and you can't expect...
On the UN particularly, George Galloway, as we've heard from the contributors, the UN to his land.
It's not his land.
Opposed to a crank from the far left.
Unfortunately, I must leave it, but invite... So, to different matters now. Mike Tindall caught flirting with a mystery blonde at a dwarf throwing party 6 weeks after his marriage to Zara Phillips. That's pretty mild compared to what a lot of sports stars get up to. Most fans don't care if their heroes score off the pitch as long as they score on it. But John Amici, internationally famous basketball star, says it's time we made players face up to their responsibilities. You can join in by webcam, make your point by phone, text, email or online. John Amici's back in the studio, and as is Val McDonald.
The standards of behaviour I expect. And we also have to lead by example. You know, football managers throwing tantrums when their teams...
should we expect anything of our sports stars other than sporting prowess?
Throwing a tantrum's one thing, throwing a dwarf is quite another. And there's no doubt that drunken flirting whilst you're...
I mean, you're in a bar, all the women want to know you. How do you help young people in that situation?
Those temptations. Christians in Football is a national network of Christian football clubs.
Is it kind of inevitable? I mean, I just wonder whether it affects certain groups of people. We don't hear bad things about Mo Farah.
Dedication and self-reliance involved in their careers. Whereas footballers, you can be a young kid at 18 and once you're in the first team, you know, you're...
Gabi Adini, a perfect role model for you, Jan.
Listen, I mean,
Let's leave it, because your text poll votes are in. On our vote this morning, we asked, should Britain bring back the death penalty? We have counted up all the votes, and here's what you told us. 63% of those of you who texted in said yes, bring back the death penalty. 37% said no, we should not. George, you weren't here for that debate, but are you surprised a majority supports it?
Yeah.
To all of my guests who've taken part today, Milo Yiannopoulos. Don't text or call the phone lines anymore, they're closed. You can continue the conversation online. Thanks for your company today. We'll see you next Sunday. Goodbye.